All right, everybody, thanks for joining us this week. My name is Tyler. I've got Patrick with us, and we've got a cool guest, Wyatt. Patrick, you want to say hello to the people first?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. It's cool to have other agents who are in this industry that are doing some really big stuff. And so I'm excited for this one. Wyatt, welcome, man.
Awesome. Really appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much. I'm Wyatt Moore to the audience. That is, I'm with Kyler Moore Insurance here in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Sweet. Well, Wyatt, tell me a little bit about your background. How'd you get into insurance? Because that's always a fun story. And then tell me a little bit about the agency and what you focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll try to get too long winded. It's kind of a cool story though how I did get involved in insurance. I was working as a server at an Outback Steakhouse. It was while I was going to college at the time, and then I had taken a quarter off. I was going to school to be a teacher. Had kind of decided that wasn't the route that I was going to take. Thought that I wanted to be involved in something business related, potentially in sales, and had kind of taken some time off of school. And while I was working at Outback, there was a guy who I worked with who had just gotten an all commission job. Right out of college, and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "I think this is something that you would be interested in. Give it a shot. You know, you're super personable. Let's see if it's something that you'd be interested in." And so I ended up going in for an interview. And then they brought me on, and then that all sounds great, but to be honest with you, I was 21. It was an all commission environment. It was great because I got licensed and I learned a lot. But as far as like success, I don't think you could call it a success in the sense of the commission aspect. If anything, I think it's pretty safe to say I fell on my face. But that being said, it opened up a lot of potential because, at that point in time, I got licensed. I got business cards. I learned the jargon. I kind of learned the aspects of insurance. Well, I'm back to serving tables, and then I serve an entire big party full of State Farm agents. And at that point in time, I give my card to the guy who I thought was running the meeting at the end of it and said, "Hey, I've really been looking for an opportunity to get out of the restaurant industry and into some form of sales." And so he goes, "You know what?" He goes, I bet there's somebody in this room that will have interest." He's like, "I'll take your card." He's like, "I'll be in touch with you." I was like, "Awesome." Well, I end up going and interviewing for a couple different places. And then one of the gentlemen from that room ended up hiring me as a team member. So that was my step into the property and casualty space, because the first job was completely all life and financial services. And so then that's when I learned completely the P&C aspect of the business. It was a very well ran agency. It was one of the top State Farm agencies here in Ohio. It was probably the closest one to downtown Cincinnati. So it was very high volume. I really got to understand what an agency and how that operated. At that point in time, though, I kind of had got the understanding that State Farm itself wasn't going to be the route to go, even though they were kind of grooming me to get into the agency track on that side. The writing was kind of on the wall to me, at least personally, that independent was going to fit me, as well as being able to do that with a business partner. Kyler Moore Insurance, Kevin Kyler is my business partner. We started the independent agency. We left State Farm. So that's kind of where that dives into. I learned everything at State Farm. And then once we got to 2017, my partner and I decided we were going to leave State Farm and open up our own independent agency. And so that's kind of been the path that got me to where we opened up our doors.
That's cool. That's sweet, man. All right. So you're coming up on 10 years, like you're 8.5 9 years in the agency. How's it been so far? What do you guys focus on? Is it just personal lines, commercial? Where do you lean?
Yep. So we came in with the plan, and the way that we tried to execute was we wanted to be the top insurance agency in Cincinnati that assisted real estate professionals. So we came in saying we were going to go sit down with every single real estate agent that we could get our hands on, every single loan officer we could get our hands on, anybody who would sit down and listen to us. And we were going to try and grow relationships out in the community, people that were dealing with, tons of refinances, tons of new purchases, which honestly really aligned perfect in timing, because from 2017 really up until a couple of years ago, the housing market was absolutely booming, and Cincinnati was growing rapidly. So it was a great influx of business. And quite frankly, I think that just by a couple of years, we kind of beat the rush of other insurance agencies to get to the professionals. Because, a lot of the times we were sitting down with these people, they had never had property and casualty agents really coming to them. And, now when I sit down with people, it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting a message or a call or an introduction all the time. So I kind of feel like that we were a little bit ahead of the curve early on in 2017, getting with those individuals. And we really have kind of stayed true to that model. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, when you're starting with homeowners insurance, you're going to meet a wide range of people and you're going to have tons of opportunities. You're also going to get introduced to a ton of, real estate investors. And so the opportunity really grew from trying to go out and find relationships inside the real estate industry.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. I know that's something Patrick and I have definitely had some success in that space and dabbled in that space. Patrick's big on just relationships in general, but he had some success with lenders.
Yeah, lenders is definitely, I honestly we really pivoted after we got to about a year to 2 years in and almost solely focused on loan officers over the real estate agents. They actually need you in order to close the loan. So it's just a far easier referral and therefore a better partner, quite honestly.
And they last in their positions a lot longer than real estate.
That too.
That's the hard part is with real estate is that they have a huge turnaround.
No doubt.
I wasted a lot of money on Chick-fil-A platters at brokerage, open houses, team meetings, etc. Before I learned that lesson.
Yeah, that was kind of the same story for me. We finally realized, a lot of these lenders are sending us 2 or 3 deals the very next week, and we're lucky if we get 2 or 3 deals, period, from this entire brokerage that we've tried to entertain.
Yeah, but they're happy to have you there. For sure.
Oh, they're super. Come on in. We'd love to take some money in your food for sure. Yeah.
So tell me about, obviously, you guys, it's a slightly different structured agency. If you're focused around the new home transaction, like you have to be able to flip quotes quickly. Tell me about, a lot of agents give us pushback about lenders just want the lowest premium possible. They don't care about coverages. Like they've got a goosehead agent in town that just gives them like whatever the cheapest policy is that they can find. Tell me about what you found there and how you differentiate yourself from agents that don't care about the coverage. They're just trying to get the lowest premium possible flipped over to the processor.
Yep. So that's where communication and having that closer relationship with the lender is super important. Being able to openly have a dialogue. And one of the things we address in any opening meeting that we have with a LO is going to be that, yes, we can help you in debt to income situations. You're going to need, you need a policy where it has to be $100 a month so you can get to the closing table. We'll have an open conversation with the insured or the borrower and their perspective, and let them know, hey, this is the reason why we're doing this. This is the reason why we have the deductible like this, and then explain how that's going to change after closing. Letting them know that, hey, this isn't just about being the cheapest possible. Yes, we'll help you achieve the goal, which is getting this individual into the home. But we really do express the fact that we're going to be trying to comprehensively cover this individual. We try to take it as a value statement in the sense that, hey, look, this is when you're making one of the largest purchases you've ever made. Let's spend a few extra minutes going over all of the details. How about let's make sure that you understand what it is you're buying as you cover this home. I think that, yes, the lenders want a hybrid of both. They want somebody they can call when they're stuck on a deal, but they also want someone who's taking great care of their clients. And so I think as long as you are communicating and providing great service in both of those instances, and then also with the end goal always being to properly cover the client, that's typically how we overcome that situation more than anything. We have never ever attempted to be the cheapest. We've always attempted to be the best that provides the service.
That's cool, man. I love that. That's sweet. All right. Tell me a little bit about, obviously 9 years in, you've probably learned a lot. If you had to give yourself some advice, you and your partner back almost a decade ago, what would you tell a younger version of yourself, what would help you shortcut the path to success in your agency?
Well, I will say, to double back, the whole not going after real estate agents would have honestly, if I could go back and just give myself that one piece, I think that would have saved me quite a bit. The other aspect that I would tell someone to give my younger self would be, I honestly think that if I could go back and tell myself advice, it would have been to borrow money earlier.
Okay.
And to grow. I think that we were so reluctant to get into debt that even once we clearly had a business that was going to pump cash flow and be able to have, we basically had the machine built. Once we had set firm referral partners and we were consistently getting, dozens of referrals every month. After that, we saw that happening. I wish we would have put it into fast forward by borrowing money and then growing. We could have grown faster if we would have borrowed money sooner. We really wanted to try and do it without borrowing money at all. And I think that honestly was probably what slowed us down. Now, that being said, though, I also would go back and talk to myself about how important it is to get great employees and how to put, I guess the term golden handcuffs on them. Once you have somebody that you really know is great at the job and that you can count on, to really lock them in, and really get them to the point where they can't go get anything better anywhere else. Because the value of having somebody that you can rely on is unbelievable, what that does for a business. And I think that that's somewhat obvious, but you really can't reiterate it enough how important it is to have somebody inside that building other than yourself that cares.
Yeah. Tell me about where'd you spend the money to grow? Did you use it to hire producers? Like, where did that go?
So there was definitely a lot of hiring staff. I wouldn't say so much as producers, because that's kind of one of the ways that we are also different in our agency. A lot of agency owners start an agency and then go hire a bunch of agents. Whereas me and my business partner were the only two employees starting from scratch. So we went out and built all those relationships. So our plan was not, hey, we're going to hire a bunch of people to go find business. Our plan was, we're going to go find all the business, and then we're going to hire an office staff that can take care of all the business that we funnel into them.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the things that kind of makes us different, is we kind of are the producers ourselves, even though we've slowed down on the networking, I'd say quite a bit, just because we have such firm relationships that are, 8, 10 years, dang near 10 years deep now.
Okay. That makes
sense. Have you had to do any course correcting on that? Because I know for me, as I was building out a lot of relationships and as I started to build staff, even some of the clients, they just initially thought that it would always be me, right? But as I grow and expand, it wasn't always the case. And I had to introduce them to say, hey, my team is an extension of me. I trust them 100%. If something's not right, you can always reach out to me. But it's no longer where I'm at your, immediate beck and call. Sometimes it's going to take a couple of days, or I need to research, or my team is doing all that. So, tell us if you've had to experience any of that, and what does that look like for you guys?
Absolutely. So I think there's definitely a little bit of a pain there, in the sense that people do get so accustomed to working with you directly, and they do get so accustomed to the fact, like, oh, hey, I'm texting straight to the owner, I'm emailing straight to the owner, and they're the one dealing with it. I do think people get a lot of comfort in that. I think that kind of goes back, though, to really having a strong staff and somebody that you can fully count on to be there, that you're handing them off to. Because yes, there's probably already an immediate like small distaste from the client about feeling like they're being passed on to somebody. But if the person they're being passed on to also meets or exceeds all their expectation, I think that typically overcomes it in itself. But also, I think expressing, hey, I am happy to help. I'm always available to you. However, I'm not the individual that's constantly in the office that can best serve you in the moment. If I'm able to give you someone who's fully capable, that's able to meet your needs in a much quicker time, it's mutually beneficial for both of us. And so it's not that I don't want to help you. It's that this actually helps you better by me giving you my partner instead of myself.
Yeah. I think the term is you have to go and find somebody who's better at that than you are.
Yeah.
Which kind of feels counterintuitive, right? But I mean, that's ultimately what you need to be able to step away. So thank you.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Well, I'll ask you one more question from me. Tell me about personally, how do you personally define success? Because I know business owners are constantly trying to figure it out and everybody has a different answer. Where do you set that benchmark for yourself?
So, well, I would say that throughout my career, there's been different times where how I've defined success has changed. As I've gotten further into my agency, I would be lying if I said that freedom and controlling my time has taken far, far, far more emphasis once I had kids specifically, that I'm willing to make significantly less to have a ton of free time and being able to enjoy kind of the fruits of that grind that I've already had. I meet guys all the time at, carrier meetings or, awards or whatever. And, they're still 10, 15 years and they're grinding like it's still their first year. And that's for a lot of people. And at a point in time, I thought that would be me. But to be 100% honest with you, I don't view it as laziness. I view it more as being content. And I'm not obviously I'm still looking for opportunities to grow and ways to improve the agency. But at the same time, I'm very comfortable in my lifestyle. And if I want to go golf on Tuesday afternoon, or if I will know that I'll never have to miss any type of event that my child's going to have, to me, that is success more than anything else that money could provide me. And so I really view that as the ultimate success that I've been able to provide for myself through insurance, is the freedom.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like a mirror with the whole process. So one of the things I never thought that I would do, my son, basically, he was, I think, 9 at the time, and he got into a high school musical, and we didn't know that he was one of the lead roles. Well, this local high school has also basically been top in the competition for all of the entire state and in the nation. So it was really important that we were there. And they wanted him to just be a kid enjoying the experience, but also at the same time, they're very competitive. And I've never seen that type of work ethic out of my son, but literally, it's almost 6 months of basically doing everything from beginning to the first reading and the first audition to all the way to performing at the award ceremony at something called the Bobby G Awards, which is like the Tonys for high schoolers. And for him to go through this, never any sort of experience, never did any dancing, singing, acting, but I never missed a practice. I picked him up from school. I took him. I was working from my phone 3 hours every single day, Monday through Friday, some Saturdays. But to be able to have that moment on opening night and for everybody to laugh at his punchlines, to basically afterward, everybody wanted him to sign their playbill. And now he's ruined forever because he just expects that anything he does, that everybody's just going to go and he's going to do an amazing job and expect this. But to get to know all of that, to watch it go from basically where all these kids had no idea about the play, they had no idea about the music, they didn't know how to dance, the stage wasn't built, but to be able to see that day by day, literally the only other person besides the kids and the directors who had seen it was me. And that's an experience that I'll never be able to that no one else has. And so to be able to say that I did that and that I had that. So I love what you said about that freedom piece. To me, that's a huge win. And I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. That's awesome for your son, by the way. That whole time you were telling that story, it gives me a big smile, just knowing that, like you said, to know that you're able to do that and have those experiences because of the freedom that your job provides it's something money can't buy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I've read a meme once that said that your clients are never going to forget the time that you were up at 9 p.m. answering their phone calls, but your kids will, and that's always stuck with me.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah. So, um, well, I have a question here, and this is so unique, but having a partner to build the agency, that's you don't see that too often. A lot of times, you maybe have one financial partner who dumps into it, and then usually the other person is growing it. But you guys are both agents who actually built this together. So, walk us through that process. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So the good news is that we were really, really good friends pretty much our entire lives. And so, he's a close friend of mine. We've worked two jobs together, and then we also did a brief stint at another sales job together as well. And so we knew we worked well together. We lived together for 2 years at one point in time prior to running the business together. So we knew we coexisted well. As far as honestly, I think having a partner at the beginning of being scratched is pretty awesome to share the joy, the misery, the frustration, the wins, the losses. Because the first, really, let's call it 3 years, but especially the first year or two, every win is so big and every loss is so devastating. And so you're riding that roller coaster, and I honestly think that it is a little bit easier when you do have somebody to share it with than it is when you're out there really kind of feeling like you're on your own. And I think that a lot of times he picked me up and I picked him up when the other person was down. And so I think that really does have a big effect. And then there's also the fact that it comes back to the freedom piece as well. The first 2 years that an individual owns an agency by themselves, they're lucky if they get to go on a vacation. They're lucky if if they're not working Saturdays, quite frankly. And so with us having being partners, being able to do double the work from day one immediately and sharing in on that and sharing in on the responsibility, I think was a massive, massive help. And so that's been great, but it's also incredibly rewarding to have the success together as well. It is a good friend of mine. Our wives are good friends. I see his kids all the time. And so, seeing one of my really good friends that I've, grown with, seeing him be happy, successful. He's got 2 boys that he's constantly at baseball with right now. And seeing him be able to experience the same kind of stuff that we're talking about is also incredibly rewarding as well.
That's cool. Yeah. Makes it sound so easy, right? Because I know not every partnership is like that, but it works out. It works beautifully.
For sure. And I will say this, that we definitely have a unique ability to get along, and we have an even more unique ability to get over things once we're upset or annoyed. We're very quick to say, my bad, my fault, we're good, right? And move on. And the other one, not. No grudges. Hey, we're in this together. We've made it this far. And we also have invested in multiple other things outside of the agency together. And I think that us being partners on a deeper level than just the insurance agency probably adds a little bit of stability to that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, not everybody gets that chance to work with their best friend successfully. You know what I mean? So I love that for you guys because it's such a unique branding piece. And I hope you guys can integrate that into your marketing. That's really cool.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then the other question that I had is, since you guys did such a good job with the partnerships, right? And again, landing with maybe the real estate first. And again, we talked a little bit, there's a lot of heartbreak in that too, because people don't last long. So if there's a new agent or newer agent, or maybe somebody looking for a different way to be able to develop those, how are you guys now curating or keeping those relationships? And then for some of maybe your most powerful partnerships, what did you do maybe slightly different than maybe your traditional method of reaching out in those touch points initially?
So when we very first started, we had a real weapon. The weapon we had was we were able to generate leads for the loan officers. And so how it started was we were generating leads every weekend, and then we would set these meetings with the loan officer show up to the meeting with leads and say, hey, look, we can provide you these leads every single month. They're going to be deals for you eventually. However good you are at selling mortgages will determine it. But we can tell you that these are individuals that have household incomes over 60 grand. They're under 40 years old and they currently rent. And we know that, and we got names, emails, and phone numbers. Facebook for a while made it very easy to do some target marketing, to where we were very, very cheap to be able to generate quite a few leads. We'd run ads Thursday through Sunday, and we'd usually have 25 or 30 leads on Monday. Nice. Well, when we would go to meetings, and they had never had an insurance agent offer them, free leads essentially that they had generated. But obviously the catch was, we don't want just the deals that you're getting from our leads. Nobody else is going to do this for you. So therefore, we want the opportunity at all of your business. Mm-hmm. And then that was the door in. That was kind of our big step in. Now, that what really was unfortunate about that was the way that Facebook's targeting completely changed 2 years later.
Yes.
And so that turned into a big issue for us. But what we were able to do was we started doing, we did home buying seminars. So we had several friends who worked at breweries all throughout Cincinnati, and I could get these rooms either dirt cheap or free at local breweries. We'd give one beer per entry. We'd have pizza, and then we'd get a realtor that the loan officer got to pick. So that way that it would kind of help him with his relationship. We'd get a home inspector, we'd get a title agent. And then at these breweries, we'd have these home buying events trying to get our referral partners deals. No other insurance agent was throwing events for real estate professionals to get them deals. And so that really grew some relationships quickly. And now you're obviously going to have some relationships where you just get along with the individual so well. And, you both have similar interests in life and are doing a lot of the same stuff. So therefore it blossoms into a friendship, and therefore you continuously get business. There's also going to be numerous turnover. The amount of people that I thought would send me business forever who stopped after a year or after 6 months, I can't even count them anymore. But there's also people I've left meetings and said, oh, that person's never going to send us a deal. They couldn't have cared less what we had to say. And then they've sent us, 2 or 3 deals a month for the last 5 years. And so it's like, you really never know. But I always tell people, you need to go into every single networking event with the thought process that in some way that individual can change your business. You just got to have a long enough and deep enough conversation to figure out how. And so when you approach it that way, I think you typically get the most out of the experience. You never want to be dismissive or thinking that individual can't potentially help you in some way. Because if you go in with that, you'll never figure out how they can.
Yeah, I love that. Man, there's so much synergy here, Wyatt, from kind of how I built my agency and all that stuff. So I'd love to, we'll have to stay connected for sure. And I know Tyler touched base on this a little bit earlier, about what would you tell your past self. But, when you look at kind of whatever the future holds, right? And you look back at kind of like where you started to where you want to be. Do you have an idea yet as to kind of what you want that legacy aspect to look like, or what you want your career to reflect, when you look back on it all?
That's a great question, because similar to how I viewed success, I've kind of changed a little bit of my view on legacy as well. Yeah. Because I'm not when we started this agency, it was one of those things where I thought, I'll do this until I'm 80 and sell it. And, it'll always be a part of what I'm going to do and be the biggest aspect of whatever business I'm doing. And I'm not positive I still feel that way. I don't think that it's going to be a situation where it's a generational type of venture anymore. I think that the legacy will be much more of a timely exit when I think it makes the most sense. And one thing I will preface is that I also have kind of extended outside of insurance a little bit as well with my investments. I own a Jersey Mike's franchise. And so I've had that for 5 years. I do a lot of stock market stuff. I've kind of done with crypto, but I've done a lot of crypto in the past. And so having many other aspects of ways that I'm kind of doing financials and dealing with money, I don't view the insurance as my one trick pony anymore that I kind of thought when I started it would be. And so I guess to be determined is really the only way I can put it as far as legacy goes, because to be honest with you, I don't have a clear picture of what that exit's going to look like. And I know that I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and that I'm not anywhere close to retirement yet. But I do know that I don't see myself still owning an insurance agency 30 years from now.
Sure. Yeah. And that's nothing wrong with that, man. I think a lot of people, when we get into it, we think all the same thing, right? That we're going to have this, it's going to be generational, or we're going to sell it for a lot. But, I've always said that financials, sales are always good footprints to lead into, to really discover who you are, because you get a chance to really explore those skill sets that a lot of people will never get a chance to explore.
For sure.
Cool, man. That's all I got, man, on my side. So thank you, man. This is awesome. Tyler, do you have anything else on your side?
No, that's all I got. Wyatt, thank you. This was awesome. It's cool getting to see not really an agency that's reinvented itself. Like, you found one thing that was really good, that what you guys were great at, and you doubled down on it. But it's a strategy that allows for freedom. When you can be so focused on referrals coming in, it does allow more time. And so that's allowed you to kind of reinvent, what does the lifestyle side of things look like? Like, what do I prioritize and what's important to me? And I think that's cool. And it's made you probably a more interesting person, in the fact that you can get involved in other businesses and ventures, and a savvier business owner as well. So I think that's cool. Insurance is neat like that. It gives us a ton of opportunities. I know when I got into the industry, there's a lady, Diane Wagner, at First Choice. And she was telling me, she's like, look, insurance agents are really fun at cocktail parties. Because she was like, you're going to understand a lot of people's stuff and a lot of different businesses. And I think Diane was right. I just didn't understand it at 21 years old or however old I was. So, but insurance is a neat industry in that. So, Wyatt, thank you so much for your time today. Man, this was a blast. If somebody has questions for you, where do they reach out? What's the best way to get connected with you?
The best way to get connected to me would be my email, I would say. wmoore@kyler-mooreinsurance.com. Super long one. Hey, you know what? I wish I could go back and tell my younger self to go INS instead of insurance, because that would have also been quite a save as well.
Yeah,
that's funny. That's cool,
man. Yeah. Thank you again, Wyatt, man. Appreciate your time today.
Sweet.
Absolutely. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks. Have a good one. Talk soon.